Great.
Okay, showtime. Welcome, everyone, to the Town of Wenham Board of Selectmen meeting of Tuesday, August 20th, 2019. The first thing we do, as usual, is looking for public input for items not on the agenda. Please line up. As usual, we don't have anybody, but sometimes we do. So let's see, we have some announcements. First of all, we have a welcome reception for our new town administrator, Anthony Ansaldi, to my right, on Tuesday, September 3rd at 6:30 to 8 p.m. And that's come one, come all, to meet the new town administrator, ask him questions.
Oh, asking questions.
Detailed questions.
Oh,
In-depth questions.
I have to get a list.
What are you going to do about this? What are you going to do about that? So that we hope that it's a good crowd to come out to see our new town administrator, and that please come. Secondly, we have a lunch and learn at the Council on Aging. How to avoid ever-changing scams, which is really important. Phone, email, or mail. September 18th at 11:30 a.m. and that I think I may attend that myself. I'm interested in that stuff. And lastly, we have the Fall 2019 Citizens Leadership Academy, which yours truly will be there to do whatever I'm told to do.
We got that on tape now, everybody.
Begins Wednesday, September 18th at 6 p.m. We have 11 candidates so far, or enrollees, I should say, and we're looking for more. I'm told by Jackie Martin, who runs this thing, that it's well received from past attendees, and that she's looking for a few more people. She said she usually can get a few more in September, and you learn all about how the town works, who does what, particularly selectmen, and that town administrator, and all of the committees and boards we have, and what the interlocking relationships are between all of them and the town. So I'm told that most people who attend this and so-called graduate from this think it's a very worthwhile thing to do. Jackie, am I doing a good job for you? Thank you very much. Okay. Next, we're going to turn to the new town administrator and for his first report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just want to remind the community that the fire department is also doing their open house this Saturday. It's from 10 o'clock to 3 o'clock. Chief Kavanaugh's here if anybody has any questions right now, but I know they have a fun-filled day of demonstrations and so forth. Do you want to add anything?
That phone one is really popular with the kids. You going to do that one again?
Yep. Yes, we are.
Yeah.
The smoke truck.
We'll be doing foam. Obviously, we're going to be mindful of the funeral going on next door.
It's a memorial service.
Yeah.
The memorial service is Friday. Is there a funeral Saturday?
Funeral tomorrow, Saturday at 11.
Yeah.
11 o'clock.
Who?
Yeah, it's Saturday.
There's a memorial service Friday at 11.
No, the 24th, I think it's Saturday. I think it's Saturday. I think we thought when we were talking it was Friday, but it was the 24th is Saturday.
Ooh, I know it was at a Herrick. I thought, okay, I could put the wrong date down. Thank you. Otherwise, I would have showed up yesterday and no one's there. Friday, I mean.
They're just going to have the foam pit. Hopefully a couple of hand lines where the residents and children can get on and try what a hose line does. You've done it.
I have. It was surprising, as I recall.
Yeah, but we'll have
Surprisingly hard to do.
Yeah,
Hang on to
it
that
is.
hose.
we'll have Sparky there.
Sparky, Lucky Sparky.
Yeah, Jaws of Life demonstration. That'll be out front. It'll be a fun-filled day. We'll probably throw a couple other things in.
So 10 to 3, you said?
10:30 to 3.
10:30 to 3.
Yeah,
Okay. Great.
and hope everyone shows up.
I know that phone thing was pretty popular with the parents and the kids the
Yes.
last couple of years.
Yes.
When we had Wenham Day, which we don't have this year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Too bad.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. That's all I have
Okay.
today.
Well, I have nothing more. We'll do the consent agenda. That's you.
That's me. It's just minutes this time, and the motion, I move to approve all items in the consent agenda as presented, the minutes of May 20th and June 18th, including the release of set number 1 and number 2 of the executive session minutes from June 4th, 2019.
Second? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Okay.
New business, you're on.
Oh, okay, I gotta turn the page.
Blowing right through this.
Blowing right through this. So,
Be out of here in a minute.
so it seemed to me that we'd spoken about, this is, the item is approval of the Deputy Chief and Fire Prevention Officer contract. And it seemed like we talked about this before, and we had, and Anthony's gonna just introduce this, and then we'll,
Yeah, so at the last meeting, you went into executive session, you agreed on the terms of the contract. The one thing that was missed is we should have came out of the meeting and then voted on that contract. So we forgot to do that, so we just added it to this meeting. So what you're basically doing is executing the contract that you already came to terms at the last meeting.
Was that not on the agenda? Was just a slip up by the chairman? Which of the two?
moving right along.
Thank you.
We had, so
It
before.
wasn't the latter, it must have been the former, that's all I can tell you.
Before I make the motion, just a couple things. So, as I mentioned just before, for Catherine will ask me this, we have the document in here, it is the document we've approved.
Yes.
It's not identified in any way. So for the future, perhaps we could have a date on it, but I think it says, since it says agreement made as of August blank, if we can just have 20 put in there, even maybe before we sign it.
Sure.
Then we can refer to that.
Sure.
The other thing is, part of the duties stipulated in this are ambulance coordinator. And I think we talked about the fact that that wasn't, that didn't go necessarily with the person, but does it go with the position? So will this, if and when this deputy chief ever leaves, is the next deputy chief going to be the fire prevention officer and ambulance coordinator?
That's my understanding, or if the chief designates somebody else as the ambulance coordinator, they would get that stipend.
So I just wondered if that should be in the motion.
Sure, I had it.
Okay, since I'm having. Okay, so I move, as Anthony said, we've already discussed this and agreed to it as a Board of Selectmen, but I move the Board of Selectmen approve the Deputy Chief and Fire Prevention Officer contract, including ambulance coordinator for FY '20 to '22, according to the terms presented in the document dated August 20th, 2019, with a beginning salary of $100,393.05. Jack likes the pennies.
5 cents.
So that's the
I think
motion.
I'm gonna have a rule, we have to round the nearest dollar from now on.
The accountant will not like you.
I'll second that. Ordinarily, the three of us, I'd say any questions, but obviously, all in favor? Aye.
Aye. Congratulations, again.
Congratulations. You're still on.
Oh, my gosh. See, when John's not here, I get extra duty. So the next item on the agenda.
No extra pay, though, just extra duty.
No, extra pay. Yeah. Adoption of the Town of Wenham Hazard Mitigation Plan and Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness 2019. I'm guessing Margaret is here to speak to that? Is that?
She is.
Okay. And as she's walking, as she's walking out, I will say that Margaret tried really hard to get me interested in this for a really long time, and it was the title that threw me off, because I couldn't figure out what it was. And I think I went to the very last meeting, and it was really interesting. So I'm glad to have had a little introduction to it.
Pull the microphone down.
Oh, sorry. I think as you're aware, the town has been working almost the past year on gaining our municipal vulnerability preparedness certification from the state, as well as updating our hazard mitigation plan. Our hazard mitigation plan that was in place was from 2012. It expired in 2017, so we were due for an update. We were able to get grant funding from the state for the municipal vulnerability preparedness piece of it, as well as additional funding to update our hazard mitigation plan. And we're at the end of it. We did it. We had a really great turnout to our workshop. It was a workshop that took place from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. on, I think it was a Saturday we did it. We had a great turnout, and it was a good roundtable discussion. We broke into groups, and I was really pleased with it. We came up with a lot of good information that needed to be things that are concerns, some of our vulnerabilities, as well as items that we feel will need to be taken care of over the years. Items like culvert repair, replacement, trees, all the things that we feel could be hazards related to weather, climate, things like that. So it's been sent to the state. It has been approved by the state and now needs adoption by this board in order for us to have it completed. And once completed, we're then eligible for grant funding to actually have for these action items, to actually get them done. And we're thinking that the new round of grant funding might be coming up by the end of this month, and into September. We want to be ready. Weston and Sampson is the company that helped us with it, and we're hoping to keep them on to do some of the work with the grant funding.
If I can just add for a second, being involved in this in my previous job, I know that there's a ton of work that goes into that whole program and getting us to that point. So really a great job by Margaret. I know that it takes a lot of time, and she did a great job in pulling this together, because I know it's a lot of work.
Thank you, Margaret.
Yep, this is the plan, and I know you've all read it.
Actually, most of it.
It is.
I have a
Just
couple-
test me. Go ahead.
couple
It's actually easy
questions.
reading. A lot of it is
well-
just documents
Well, it
that
was
went along with.
well-written enough that you could
It was.
kind of get through it.
Yeah. So if you do, once you vote to adopt it, then we can move forward with it and start looking at some grant money. Good.
I have a couple of comments, questions. Do you want to make the motion first, or?
Yeah, make the motion
Okay,
first.
so the motion is, I move that the Board of Selectmen adopt the Town of Wenham Hazard Mitigation Plan and Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness 2019.
Second.
Do you have any? Okay, so I have a couple.
I got all my questions answered. in advance.
Okay. I didn't. Easy things. First of all, I couldn't agree more with Anthony, having seen a little bit of this process. And
Yeah.
also how much work it was for the whole group,
Yeah.
and you especially, but also the nice words that came from FEMA and from the state.
Yes,
They were very
yeah.
complimentary
They
in
were.
their
We got a
approval.
complimentary email from them.
And being the citizens engagement person that I am, I love that one of the things that they liked was the fact that we had so much engagement by
You did.
citizens. There were a couple of things in this, and I'm seeing this in so now we've had a Affordable Housing Trust Action Plan, Open Space and Recreation Plan. So everything that has demographics in it, I'm seeing the same accurate but misleading, in a way, information. So I'm just going to bring it up, nothing that you can really do about it.
Sure.
But when they talk about, when any consultant tries to get demographics
Yeah.
or population for Wenham,
Yep.
you and I have had this conversation, they use, the census data or something. And it overstates our population, because the full-time population does not include Gordon College, which is maybe 1,500 or more students. So sometimes, as this does, overstates our population, but it also overstates our population in the 18 to 24, because it counts all the Gordon students as Wenham residents. So this one, it didn't really seem to affect the outcome or the actions too much.
No, and it wouldn't done this.
But I always, when we did the housing needs assessment,
Yeah.
which was, of course, much more heavily data-driven, we actually, in that case, asked a
Yeah.
consultant to pull out Gordon, which is really hard, because you're looking at a document from the state.
Yeah.
So that was one thing. And the only other question I had, which I think I put at the beginning, is, so obviously there's implementation, and you're hoping to get grant money, and it looks like you have an implementation committee already formed. But are you comfortable that this is going, there are a lot of really important things that are in here, but it's as all other, plans that are written, it'd be easy to put on a shelf. And this one isn't always as front and center, these issues, unless there is, something happens. So I
Right.
guess maybe it's a comment and a question. I'm concerned that this actually remains a live document.
Yep.
And that the committee continues to work on it. And
Okay.
also, if there's anything that Anthony or the selectmen can do to help,
Okay.
make sure.
Great.
I'm thinking about budget discussions and other things, that some of the things that need to get done,
Yeah, I have every intention
Come
of keeping this moving forward. We'll be, Weston and Sampson is ready to work on the grant application right away, the first one at least, and then in subsequent years, we'll continue to whittle away at this for each of the projects as in their priority.
Great,
Yeah.
great, just always.
No, this isn't one I want to sit on the shelf.
No.
These are actual, good physical projects,
Right.
infrastructure projects that we can, get the funding for, and we should absolutely take advantage of it. While the state is in that mode,
Right,
Governor Baker's focus has been on climate adaptation and infrastructure improvements, so
Great, so we look
we want to
forward
get on board that for sure.
grant applications for those things.
Yeah.
Those, my comments, questions.
Okay, we've made the motion. All in favor? Aye, unanimous?
Congratulations,
Great.
good job, great job.
Thank you very much.
Exactly.
And I hope that you'll keep us updated on grants and things that are happening.
Certainly will, yep.
Because it's nice to know.
Any grant that we do, you'll have to.
Right.
That's right.
So you know where it's all going.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. Good job. Next, we have the Bayside Engineering 25% design plan contract, which is one of the most sought-after, desirable contracts we've had in many, many, many years, which is the Route 1A remediation. I'm going to read the motion first. Then I'm going to turn it over to Anthony to answer any questions and ad lib. I move in the board approve the contract with Bayside Engineering, Inc. for the 25% design plans and cost estimates for the rehabilitation of 3 intersections along the Route 1A corridor, which is right outside this office. That's not in the motion, though. The contract should not be implemented until state funds are received by the town, but we're
So-
optimistic that we're going to, ad-libbing, optimistic we're going to receive that based on Anthony's comments early today, within the next 3 or 4 weeks, something like that.
I was
So-
just going to second that, so we could,
Second it.
yeah, second.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I have 2 thank you letters to Senator Tar and Representative Hill, thanking them for their help in getting that earmark. In speaking to,
It was $150,000, right?
it was $150,000, yes.
Pretty impressive when most towns are only getting $25,000 to $35,000.
Yeah.
Right?
That's true, that's very true. It's very true. I haven't seen money like that in my previous job, so that was...
Didn't
that
get
was
far
great.
as to Littleton, just so you know.
Never made it, yeah, right, that's
Well, they're
okay.
great advocates for us.
They are.
So in speaking to, normally what happens now is that because it's a transportation project, that we go over to the Secretary Pollock's office. And normally when somebody gets around to it after summer, they would contact us and say, hey, Wenham, what do you want to do? Are you ready for this? Or fill out this form, we'll give you the money. In speaking with Senator Tar, I told him that it's really important that we try to get that funds as quick as possible because we're ready to execute the contract with Bayside. So he said for me to pen a letter to Secretary Pollock, which I did start, requesting the funds, CCing both the senator and the representative, and they would work behind the scenes to get that money to us quicker so we can get this going. So I'm very optimistic with that phone call that I had with him today. So in the packet is the contract. If the selectmen are okay with that, I would say you could execute that. Obviously, I wouldn't turn it over to Bayside until we have the funds in hand and to complete the contract.
And we actually we saw this contract before, didn't we? Yeah, it looked really familiar. Okay, that sounds great.
For the listening audience, we need $180,000. We applied for that, received $150,000, which we're very, very grateful for, from Senator Tar, Brad Hill, and that so the other $30,000 will be made up from so-called Chapter 90 money, which we otherwise spent on roads. This is for roads, and so $180,000 is what the town of Wenham was required to come up with in order to get this ball rolling with the state, right?
That's correct.
So we're very, very pleased. Thank you, Senator Tar and Representative Hill. We have our gratitude. So that we made a motion. All in favor? Aye.
Aye,
Great.
sooner the better.
Other matters that may not have been reasonably anticipated by the chair, nothing. So I move we adjourn.
I second that motion.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
That's a record.
Maybe not a